past, Clinton County, Missouri was the western edge of the United States. Situated between two emerging cities, Kansas City and St. Joseph, Clinton County benefited from their growth. The Pony Express, the Gold Rush, and Western migration brought people through the county, but the population that settled here put it on the map. Plattsburg became the beef capital of the world. Lathrop was the major supplier of mules for the Boer Wars and World War I. 5 railroads crisscrossed the county, and the nation's first north-south highway ran through Cameron, Plattsburg, and Trimble on its way to Kansas City. Clinton County was home to David Rice Atchison, president for a day, James Harvey Birch, Missouri Supreme Court judge, Willis J. Wynn, president of the Cleveland Federal Reserve, and James Marshall, early leader of the Manhattan Project. Here are more family histories of Clinton County.
Hello, I'm Eleanor Jackson Chipman, and I'm presenting the history of the Jackson family in Clinton County, Missouri. James and Sally Jackson came to Clinton County from Illinois with their 10 children in 1863 and homesteaded north of Plattsburg. Their son, Ananias Myers Jackson, was my grandfather. It's through the lineage of James's grandmother, Mary Carlock, that we trace the family history back to John Christian Carlock, who fought under General George Washington in the Revolutionary War. It was certified by the Daughters of the American Revolution, of which I am a member. My grandfather, Ananias Myers Jackson, was born in 1851. He married Josephine Gill in 1873. They had 2 children, Hosea, 1874, and Cora, 1876. Josephine became ill after riding a horse in cold weather and died in 1878. Ananias' second marriage was to Eliza Jones in 1881. 2 children were born of this marriage, my father, John, 1881, and Ruby, 1885. Ananias was one of Clinton County's leading stockmen and well known in the area. He was said to have been a fine dresser and that he wore silk shirts and used toilet water. He served on the jury for the Jesse James murder trial of Robert Ford in 1882. The defendant was found not guilty. Ananias lived on the farm his father homesteaded until he was 82. He moved in with his daughter Cora for the last 3 years of his life. He was active until about the last 5 weeks when he became ill and died in 1936. My father, John Myers Jackson, was known as a kind businessman and a sharp trader. He was engaged in the livestock business, first with mules during the Boer Wars through World War I, when Lathrop was the mule capital of the world, and later with cattle when the county was the beef capital of the world. At first, he dealt in the mule trade with his father. In 1901, Elton Grayson came to work for Ananias and my dad when he was 9 years old. The nickname of Tag was given to him by Dad. When they went to buy mules, he would take Tag along to ride them back. Dad would tell him to quit tagging along behind so that they could shut the gate. Dad went out on his own in 1902. He married Maud Delaney in 1907. After she died in 1918, he lived with his sister, Cora Newby, on Clay Avenue. Soon after, Dad and Charles Newby formed Newby and Jackson in the mule and cattle business, becoming the largest feeders in Clinton County. Newby and Jackson had a mule barn on the corner of Clay and Main Streets. They bought mules, took them back to town to fatten them to sell. It was Tag's job to get the mules back to town. Often Tag had to break one of the mules where they were bought, so he could ride one and lead the others. You couldn't saddle them. They had to be ridden bareback. He worked for 4 generations of the Jacksons, 73 years in all. He died in 1984. When the Newby sons, J.C., Ralph, and Paul, came of age, Newby and Jackson dissolved and became Newby Brothers and Jackson Cattle Company. Bluegrass was also a big business every summer. The seed was stripped from the pastures and taken to the bluegrass yard just east of our home on 116 Highway, west of town. The bluegrass was spread on the ground and tossed into the air by what we called a kicker that was pulled behind a tractor. I even put in some time driving one of those. A lot of young men from town worked in the various bluegrass yards in Clinton County during the summer to earn money. When the seed was separated from the stems and dry, it was laid out in long rows. It was bagged by hand in burlap bags, loaded on a truck, and sold in the Kansas City market. At the end of the summer, the carnival came to town. That was where a lot of the monies the boys earned went. The bluegrass business ended when laying sod became the new way to have an instant front yard. My mother, Christelle Craner, graduated from Northwest Missouri State Teachers College in 1923 and came to Plattsburg to teach English at the high school. It so happened that she rented a room across the street from the Newby house, and Dad would see her walk to school every morning. When he began to court her, he had to resign from the school board. They were married in 1924 and had 3 children. John Craner, 1925, James Myers, 1930, and Eleanor Christelle, 1938. Mother only taught that 1 year. She told me that her contract to teach stated that she could not dance, play cards, or leave the county without the board's permission. I attended the Jones School, a 1-room schoolhouse, for 3 years. Mrs. Emma Funkhauser was the teacher, and if the weather was bad and the road was muddy, she would drive out to our house, and Tag would hitch up a team of mules and take us to the school in a wagon. Most of the other kids rode their ponies to school. On Sunday afternoons, I would ride my horse, helping to sort the cattle that were to be sent to market on Monday. It was a time when your word settled a contract. I remember my dad saying, "If your word's not any good, what would I want with your signature?" Craner and Jim both graduated from Wentworth Military Academy. Craner served as a Marine in World War II, coming home at the end of the war to help run the cattle feeding operation. When he moved out of state in 1950, Jim stepped in to help until my father died in 1963. I married Kermit Smith in 1957 and have 4 children: Laurel DeFries, Dina Cochran, Brooks St. John, and Rodman Smith. 7 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren. I now live in Plattsburg in a historic brick building built in 1887 by Benjamin Metzner. Originally a grocery store, it has been many different businesses over the years. There is a Civil War armory attached to the back north side of the property. Thank you for listening. I hope you have enjoyed a bit of the Jackson history.